Hello and welcome. This is Hard Hat Girl Speaks. I'm Harian Jean, your host, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the relationship between food, feelings, and the tip jar. Tipping is an act that has been practiced in America since the post-Civil War. Somehow, this ancient act has now come with so many complexities that render questions if we should tip, how much we should tip, is it enough how much I'm tipping, do I even want to tip? And I'm going to be talking to someone who worked in the service industry to ask how they feel about tipping culture, how it's affecting our food, and if we've gone too far. So it seems like a simple act of kindness is actually the start of what it looks like to survive. Tipping in the United States started in the post-Civil War era as a means to provide wages to Black emancipated workers, payment that they got from patrons or the sole wages that they earned from that role. Simply, this was economic exploitation, institutionalized to keep the people at the bottom. Fast forward to the present, where the federal tipped minimum wage remains at $2.13 per hour. So from the past to the present, people are still looking to patrons to provide them the rest of the wage to make up a livable income. Now, how does that affect our food? Studies from the University of Berkeley indicate that customers often tip based on perceived friendliness rather than the quality of service or the quality of food. Another study by the Journal of Socioeconomics found that attractive and socially engaging servers usually receive a higher tip than their other counterparts, even when the quality of service remained the same. This dynamic is adding an increased pressure to service workers to not only perform physically, but now also perform emotionally at the expense of their own mental well-being. The expectation to constantly display this positive attitude can lead to burnout, emotional exhaustion, amongst so many other mental illnesses. And at the cost of what? A 10 to 20% tip. But is tipping doing what we think it's doing? We think, as the customer, that when we tip, it's boosting the morale of the employee, that it's adding to the value of the environment and leads to better food service, better food quality, and a better overall experience. But is that really what's happening? Recently, there has been a new phenomenon called tipflation, the emerging increase of an expectation for tip. And I'm not gonna lie, I see it. Tipflation is real. They are asking for tips everywhere, from the 7-Eleven convenience store to the self-service grocery checkout lane. It feels like I'm always being prompted with this, how much do I want to tip question? And most of the time, my answer is 0. But what's happening here? Why is there an expectation for tips in an area that's not full service, or in an area that I'm not even being serviced at all? According to Toast 2023 restaurant trend reports, diners are tipping less on average, citing that tipping fatigue and confusion with how much to tip and what's appropriate for tipping is just causing diners to rather not tip at all or just not come into restaurants to avoid the situation entirely. This constant barrage of kiosks and the question of how much do I want to tip is now leading people to feel less gratitude and more obligation. But I'm curious, are waitstaff on the other end also expecting this tip as much as we think they're expecting it? Or is this constant barrage of how much do we want to tip creating this false illusion that we have to give extra to get what we paid for? So let's pivot. Let's ask someone who's worked in the service industry herself. I want to introduce you to my longtime friend, Ariel Torres, to share her firsthand perspective of the culture of tipping while she worked as a waitress at the Bamboo restaurant in Orlando, Florida. So, Miss Ariel Torres, can you please state your position and what your daily responsibilities were?
So I was a sales associate. I did a little bit of everything, actually. I worked as a cashier. I did cleaning, front and back of the store. I did food prep throughout the day. I counted drawers at the end of the night. Pretty much, yeah.
Wow. It kind of sounds like you were practically manager. You did everything.
I wouldn't say that.
Jeez. I mean, cleaning, food prep.
Depending on the hours that I worked, if I worked in the morning to the afternoon, I would clean up the store in the morning before we opened, get stuff prepped, and then go on about the day.
Okay. And how much were you paid hourly for that?
I want to say it was. I started out at $8.50.
Wow.
If I'm remembering correctly.
That's not bad. And then you made it up to. Did you ever get any raises?
I want to say I ended off with about $9. Yeah.
Okay, so in your 1 year, how much would you say tips contributed to your income?
I would say very little. Really? At least that I can remember. I mean,
are you sure?
Because you took tips on the computer, the little tablet that they had, and then people also left cash tips. I think one day for cash tips, it would be maybe $5 that I would get on an average day, and then cash tips I was looking at maybe, because I got paid on the 1st and 15th of the month, I was probably looking at $20, maybe 30.
Interesting. But I feel like that would be during not peak season, because I think in summer you used to bring home mad cash, and I'd be like, Ariel, what the bombaras? Where did this come from? And you'd be like, oh, tips, and I'd be like, huh? I think you literally made 100 plus.
It'd be certain times. So Vietnamese New Year, I was making a lot of tips.
Okay, so you holidays Viet New Year.
Yeah. And then
Lunar New Year, you would get you would expect more tips.
And then a lot of Easter too, because a lot of them they were Catholic. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the religious holidays too.
Interesting. So do you notice any other times where you would get tipped more? Maybe if you dressed a certain way, or if you were extra friendly to a customer, anything like that? No, you never had to show a sliver of ass or titties to get an extra tip, pay the bills.
Is this allowed for the freaking thing?
Yeah.
Not that I noticed.
Not that you recall.
They, I don't know. I was the only white girl there that was working. They didn't really look at me.
Interesting.
I mean, they looked at me, but they're like, "What is she doing here?"
Do you ever feel maybe you missed out on getting tips because you were the only white girl that worked there?
It really just depends, because some people were kind of just weird about it.
And you being white or the tips?
Me being white.
Oh.
And then other people, they start saying their order in Vietnamese, and I had been working there for so long that I kind of knew what they were asking for. I could understand numbers 1 through 10, and then the different drinks that they have it in. And they wouldn't, like, look at me when they were ordering it. And then when they would look up, they would repeat it in English. And I was like, I already have it.
Oh, I love that.
And they would be very impressed.
I can see how that would be.
I don't remember if they tipped or not.
I'm finished. Good morning, Tati. God bless you. Thank you.
So I think for that one, I would say the total, and then when I would turn it around,
it would come out.
It would put, like, the tip. Yeah, I would put, like, the complete total, like, with the tip.
Okay. And how would you get tips that were, like, charged through, like, somebody's card like that? Like, do you get it?
Added into my paycheck.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I like that. I feel like tips contributed to the work ethic or work environment?
Sort of. It was like, you know, you kind of felt like you had a good day if you made, like, a lot of tips, like cash tips.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of, it, like, boosted morale a little bit.
Okay. So when it comes to that, let's say maybe there's, like, a rude customer or a bad tipper, like, you know, they are out here ordering 20-something drinks for the owner, shaking with your arms depend on it, and they tip you like $2. Have you ever you know, tampered with a customer's order, or ever seen somebody tampers with a customer's order?
Oh, no.
It's okay.
Tampering is a heavy way to put it. We would put, like, depending on what drink it was, you know how they had, like, the little shaved ice on top of the drinks?
Yeah.
We would put less. I don't know if that counts as, I guess that counts as tampering. It's not like we would, like, spit in people's drinks.
It's okay. You can tell me. This is just between you, me, and my entire college class.
I did not spit.
Because about how you feel.
When I go out to, like, restaurants and stuff, we almost always tip at least 20%.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Like minimum? That's your minimum, 20%?
Most of the time, yeah. If it's like, if we get I feel like if it's a server that, like...
I mean, if I'm, like, being very analytical about
Yeah.
then I'll tip 10 or 15, but I'll still tip.
Yeah, we still tip. Like,
For not tipping.
Okay, just not tip. And that's honestly why I just don't eat outside. Because I know that I would rather... And you know what I'm saying? I'm just going to eat this Philly cheesesteak alone in my room. Thank you, though, ma'am.
Like, if we're ordering to go from a restaurant, sometimes we don't tip, and then other times we'll tip, like, the 10-15%, because it's like, who are we tipping?
True.
One of my girlfriends told me it was, like, the kitchen staff, but at the same time, they split it between, like, however many kitchen staff there is, so they're basically getting pennies. Anyways. Like, that's how those kiosk tips were split.
Oh.
It wasn't, you know, given to who was working that specific day. They just split it evenly.
Oh, so even if you weren't on the clock, you were still getting part of that tip.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, I could see how that would be unideal for most. Because there could definitely be people on the schedule.
There's people who will work, like, 15 hours a week, and then they end up getting...
The same amount as... Yeah. Patricia, who's only been working, 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow, I didn't know that part. I thought that when, you flip the kiosk, because you know how it's like, your order was completed by, you have to sign in, and it says your name, who did the order. So I'm assuming whenever I tip...
Like restaurants that do it like that.
I'm going to find out.
The one I worked at personally.
I don't know. Intended for people to be flipping around that tablet to be asking for tips 24/7. So I wonder if he even Very, very interesting about tipping. Thank you so much for your time and your cooperation in answering my questions.
Anytime.
Is there anything that you would like to share with my class about tipping?
Hi guys. Tip your servers. You know, we're not always asking for 20%, just anything. We're making small change, coins.
After speaking with Ariel, it seems like tipping has really no effect on the quality of food. In fact, Scroll In found that there's virtually no connection between service quality and tip size. In fact, tipping is actually causing a bigger problem within the service industry between the front of house and back of house staff, which are not receiving any tips at all most of the times. So you would think that your tip when you're out in a restaurant would go to the people not only serving you your food, but also the people preparing your food. But that's not the case at all. In fact, the people who are preparing your food aren't even seeing a dime of this tip. So your extra payment that is showing how grateful you are for the service you received, it's only going to the person that you see in front of you, which is your waiter or waitress. They had very little to do with the preparation of the food. However, the way that you receive your food is going to completely change your experience. So imagine if somebody handed you a plate and just slammed it down in front of you, didn't say a word to you, just had a bad attitude, and you just could feel their anger or resentment in some way. Would you want to eat the food that they laid down in front of you after they slammed it down in your face like that? I don't think so. For me personally, I can say that I'm not eating food from anybody who's angry. But my conversation with Ariel did open my eyes to something. For me, I personally thought that when I tipped, every single person that was working that day was getting a portion of what I tipped. Or at least the person who was helping me personally was getting the full amount of the tip. On top of that, I also thought that part of my tip may possibly be going to increasing the quality of service in the food or in the environment or in some way the workplace. But now that I know that tips are solely just a means to give workers a wage that is decent for them to live off of, I don't know if tipping monetarily is something that I want to do. But instead, tipping with my generosity, with my kindness, and my patience with whoever is helping me. Tipping is a simple token of appreciation. Unfortunately, tipping comes at a cost. It's not costing us the taste of our food, but it's costing us the mental well-being of the people who serve us. From emotional manipulation to racial and gender inequalities, this system needs to change. And I believe as diners, we have a role to play, not just in how much we tip, but understanding why we're tipping in the first place. Now that you know that tipping has no effect on the taste of your food, how will that change the way you tip when you go out? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video and everything that I've talked about. If you're interested in my citations that I used, please check the description below, and I hope you enjoyed this video.